Picture this. You're at the grocery store. You grab your usual stuff, milk, bread, whatever snacks looked good. You don't check a single price the entire trip. You just grab things. And at checkout, the total comes up, and for a second, your stomach drops a little. But you pay it anyway, and you move on with your day. That was me for 30 days straight. No price checking, no comparing, no pausing to think, is this worth it? Just grab, buy, move on. Like most people already do without realizing it. I wanted to know what that actually costs. Not emotionally, not psychologically, in real, actual dollars. So I tracked every single purchase for a month and compared it to what I would have spent if I'd checked prices the way I normally do. And the number surprised me more than I expected.
My name is Jordan. If you've ever wondered whether checking prices actually matters, or if it's just a habit that makes you feel responsible without doing much, stick around, because the answer isn't what I assumed either. Subscribe if this kind of experiment is useful to you. All right, let's break down what actually happened. First, I need to explain what not checking prices actually meant, because it's more common than people think. It wasn't reckless spending. I didn't buy anything wild or impulsive. I just stopped doing the small comparison behaviors most of us do automatically. Not checking if the store brand was cheaper, not comparing the price per ounce, not pausing before adding something to a cart online, not glancing at a menu price before ordering, just accepting whatever number showed up. Here's the thing. Most people assume price checking is this tiny, insignificant habit, something that saves maybe a few cents here and there, not really worth the mental effort. So let's talk about what actually happened. Week 1, I didn't notice much of a difference. My grocery bill was maybe 8% higher than usual. Not dramatic. Genuinely felt negligible in the moment. Week 2 is where things started shifting. Because when you stop checking prices, you stop noticing when something is on sale. You stop noticing when a smaller size is actually cheaper per unit. You stop noticing when a subscription service raised its price without telling you. By week 2, my total spending was up almost 19% compared to my normal month.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, Jordan, but a lot of that has to be groceries. And yes, groceries were part of it, but here's where it got really interesting. The bigger gap wasn't in groceries at all. It was in things I didn't even think about as price-sensitive purchases. Streaming subscriptions, app purchases, delivery fees, small online orders where I just clicked buy without comparing to anything. Because here's the psychological piece nobody talks about. Checking a price isn't really about the price. It's about the pause, the half-second moment where your brain asks, do I actually want this at this cost? And when you remove that pause entirely, you're not just spending more, you're making every purchase decision on autopilot.
By the end of the 30 days, my total spending was 23% higher than my average month. On my income, that worked out to just over $410 extra. Not from one big purchase, from dozens of tiny moments where I simply didn't check. Here's the part that actually surprised me the most. It wasn't the discomfort of spending more that stood out. It was how easy it felt, how normal it became by week 3. I stopped noticing that I'd stopped noticing. The habit of not checking became just as automatic as checking used to be. Which tells you something important about how most people spend money without ever running an experiment like this. It's not that they're careless. It's that removing the pause happens gradually, without anyone deciding to do it on purpose. Life gets busy. Checking prices feels like friction. And slowly, the friction disappears.
Now, here's where this gets useful. Because the goal isn't to obsessively price check everything forever. That's exhausting, and honestly, not necessary. The goal is understanding what that tiny pause is actually worth.
$410 in 1 month is nothing dramatic on its own. But extended across a year? That's roughly $4,900. Invested at 8% annually over 20 years? That becomes close to $224,000. From one habit. Not income, not a side hustle. Just the pause before pressing buy. So here's what I'm actually doing differently now. Not checking every price on every purchase. That's not realistic. And honestly, it's not even the point. Instead, I built in exactly 3 checkpoints. Before adding something to an online cart. Before ordering delivery instead of cooking. And once a month, glancing at subscription charges to catch creeping price increases. 3 checkpoints. Not 30. Just enough friction to bring the pause back without making shopping feel like a chore. Because the goal was never to spend less on everything. The goal was to make sure spending was still a decision, not just a reflex. If you've ever felt like your spending creeps up without any single explainable reason, this is probably why. Not one bad purchase, just the slow disappearance of the pause. If this was useful, hit subscribe. And I want to know, do you check prices before buying things? Or have you noticed that habit slipping too? Drop it in the comments. Because sometimes just noticing the pause is missing is the first step to bringing it back.